Welcome to Neurodivergent Faith, a podcast to help you navigate the beautiful and complicated intersection of neurodivergence and Christian faith and practice. My name's Josh Davis. I'm autistic, ADHD, a spiritual director, and an ordained pastor. And I'm delighted to have you join me as we explore the unique ways neurodivergent people experience God, worship, community, and scripture, along with special interests, sensory and attention differences, social and communication challenges, and much more. Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Neurodivergent Faith. I'm really glad that you decided to join us today for this continued conversation. We've been talking around this idea of parenting for the last several episodes. And as I've said in each episode, this is going to be focused on parenting, but it really has a lot that applies to partners, to friends, to loved ones of neurodivergent people. So I hope you'll stay tuned even if you're not a parent. This also may give you some insight into how you were parented and how you're processing some of that as an adult. So let's jump in. There's a parenting skill that I for sure was never taught, and I wonder if you were. It's not behavior charts, it's not scripts, it's not consequences or rewards, but it is the quiet, sometimes invisible work of tending to our own nervous systems as parents in the presence of our children. I'm calling this episode, Parents, Please Regulate Yourselves. And this is especially important for those of us who are parenting neurodivergent kids. A few weeks ago, I was able to finally put some words to a longing that I've carried with me my whole life. I have been looking my entire life to find someone to help the world feel less overwhelming. And here's the holy truth. Your child does not first experience your words. They experience your state of being. Before they understand what you're saying, they're unconsciously asking without words, am I safe with you now? Not because you are inherently dangerous, but because their nervous system is searching for grounding, for regulation, for stability, for safety. So this episode is not going to be about trying to become a perfect parent. There is no such thing. It is an invitation to notice yourself, to return to calm, to regulate one breath, one repair, one moment at a time. So let's begin. The first thing I want to share is that your nervous system as a parent is an important part of your child's environment. Again, before your child processes your words, they're reading your body, your tone, your pace, your facial tension, micro shifts in energy. And neurodivergent kids, especially those with sensory sensitivities or demand avoidance, are often scanning for safety without even realizing it. And they're especially sensitive. They pick up on these things. If your system is activated, tight, urgent, reactive, it can feel like danger to them. It can register in their body as threat, even if your words are gentle. Regulation says you are safe here. Dysregulation, even unintentionally, can say something is wrong or even dangerous. Like it or not, parents, and again, this applies to friends, loved ones, your internal world doesn't stay hidden. It becomes an important part of the atmosphere for your neurodivergent loved ones. So here's something important. I want to encourage you to be honest with your kids about your distress. Many of them can already feel it, especially, as I said, neurodivergent kids whose bodies often feel everything more intensely, or more quickly, or more all at once. Be honest with your kids about your distress. Now, in order to be honest with your kids about your distress, you have to be honest with yourself about your distress, and you have to tune in to see that you actually are distressed. Sometimes your kids or your neurodivergent loved ones might pick up on your distress before you do. But be honest. Once you realize your distress, be honest with your kids about it. Because when we deny our distress, we're teaching our kids one of two things. Number one, we're teaching them to distrust their own sensing. They are picking up on some vibe that I'm distressed, but I say I'm not distressed. Then I'm teaching them to question their own sensing, that they probably got it wrong. Or I could be teaching them that distress is something so terrible that we don't name it, we don't talk about it, we don't acknowledge it, we don't bring it into the light. But when we say, hey, I'm feeling overwhelmed right now, I'm going to take a breath, we're modeling awareness, and even that acknowledging of what's real in the moment can actually help some nervous systems to begin to calm down. I know it helps me when the people around me name honestly what's going on for them, name honestly the distress that they're carrying. It can also help our kids to know that the distress isn't about them. You might say, hey, I'm feeling overwhelmed right now because I just got this email or this text message, or I've just got so many things on my brain right now. It's nothing about you, but I'm feeling overstimulated, overwhelmed. Or I'm feeling really angry because of something that happened last night and something that someone else said or did, right? That's helping the kid to know it's not you that's causing this distress. When it's not acknowledged, kids are often really self-focused and they think it's their fault. And they try to figure out ways to protect that from ever happening again. But that can be really costly to a child. So acknowledge your distress. Number two, dysregulation escalates dysregulation. So if a child is already overwhelmed and the adult responds with frustration, urgency, or control, it often intensifies the moment. So if a parent dumps their anxiety, frustration, or anger onto an already dysregulated child, it compounds the overwhelm. It's like pouring water on a gas fire. Can actually cause the problem to get hotter, to get bigger. Because now the child's nervous system is not holding their own storm only, they're holding two storms. They're holding your storm as a parent and their own storm. So while your regulation doesn't remove their distress, it can keep you from adding weight to their distress. I'm going to say that again. While your regulation doesn't automatically remove their distress, it can at least keep you from adding weight or adding intensity or compounding their distress. And I'll say this personally. I wish the adults around me had understood how their emotions affected me, which is strange as I think about it because I was taught to be hyper aware of how my emotions affected everyone else. And yet, the adults around me seem to have no idea about how their emotions affected me. In the last episode, we talked about the difference between tantrums and meltdowns. And I'm just going to review that briefly again here, and then go on to give some ideas about what is actually helpful as a way of engaging in those situations. So tantrums and meltdowns are not the same. A tantrum is usually goal-oriented. A child is trying to obtain something or avoid something. And if the goal is met, or if the audience disappears, the tantrum often subsides. On the other hand, a meltdown is neurological overwhelm. It's not strategic, it's not manipulative, it's not about control, it's a nervous system in overload. And so they require different responses from caregivers. For tantrums, stay calm, hold your boundary as a caregiver, and avoid reinforcing the behavior. For meltdowns, reduce sensory input. Lower your voice. Minimize your words. Offer regulation, not lecture. Stay present without shaming, and co-regulate before attempting correction. What makes meltdowns worse, like pouring water on a gas fire, when a parent becomes dysregulated in response. So now there are two nervous systems in this huge conflagration. And often the larger one is the one that gets the most attention. An anxious parent can escalate fear. An angry parent can amplify shame. A triggered parent can interpret our child's distress as a threat to ourselves. What the child needs is co-regulation. They need a steady voice, reduced input, calm presence, soothing of some sort, safety. But co-regulation requires something really difficult, and especially difficult for those of us who are neurodivergent ourselves and who may have not grown up receiving co-regulation that worked for us. In order to co-regulate with our kids, we must learn to regulate ourselves. And that is sacred work. It's hard work. It's often healing work. And it can be extra challenging because our kids can trigger our own wounds, can trigger our stories, our internal narratives that are very painful. I like to say that triggers are an invitation to healing. For me, that's a reframe that really helps. Okay, I'm feeling triggered. It's actually an invitation for me to grow, for me to heal. Let me give you a personal example of how a parent's dysregulation can make it worse for the child. When I was in my early teens, my family moved from the United States to Costa Rica and then eventually to the Dominican Republic. And while my first few months in Costa Rica did include a few bright spots, like a favorite ice cream cone with a chocolate shell and a lady that I saw almost every day who had a lovely smile, predominantly those first few months for me in Costa Rica were a time of deep darkness. And as I look back, I understand it more clearly. I had said goodbye to all my friends, my family, my house, my neighborhood, everything I had known. My routines, which are an important part of my safety and security as an autistic person, were no more. And there was no room for grief because my parents were responding to God's call to become missionaries. And there was this sense of this was God's will, and God is good all the time. So there's no space to grieve. My opportunities for socializing in clear boundaried ways, like my soccer team that I had been a part of in the United States and my church Sunday school, all of those opportunities for socializing in clear boundaried ways had been removed. And up until our move to Costa Rica, music had also been a regular part of my life that had helped me regulate my emotions and my nervous system. But when we moved to Costa Rica, I could no longer take violin lessons or sing in the church choir. After a few months, I began learning piano from Miss Pat, one of my teachers there, which was a pure gift to me. But during this initial time period, it was all loss and void. And as an adult, when I was reflecting back on this dark time, I remembered going for about 2 or 3 days without talking to anyone. What I now understand to be autistic burnout, depression, mutism. And at the time, it felt like being in a deep, dark hole and unable to motivate myself to do anything or reach out in any way. And when I asked my dad recently what he remembered about that experience, he said he remembered it being about 3 to 4 weeks, not days, weeks of me not speaking much, and mostly, in his words, quote unquote, moping around. He said that he and my mom were concerned for me, but he told me that he thought then, and he actually still thinks, I was trying to punish him with my silence. So he left me alone and didn't engage with me. It's one thing to be depressed and alone, needing care and help. And it's another thing to be treated in that moment as if you are the threat. It's really disorienting. It's deeply disturbing when people who say that they love you make your pain about themselves. My mom, on the other hand, she tried to get through to me, but it didn't work. Part of me is grateful that she at least tried to move towards me. Day after day, she tried a variety of ways to connect with me, like offering food and drink, gentle touch, questions like, "What's wrong?" But she didn't understand me or know what was happening inside of me. I wasn't hungry. I was depressed and had no desire for food. She had no idea that because of one of my unique autistic traits, her touch was deregulating to my nervous system. She didn't know that because of alexithymia, I couldn't answer questions like, "What's wrong?" And she didn't know she was making it worse. But I did. I felt it. It was clear to me that I felt more and more agitated and deregulated and missed. But I thought I must be wrong for not receiving what she was offering as love. She kept trying, but I remained silent, melting down on the inside while showing as little as possible on the outside. And after several weeks, I think she became so desperate to get any kind of communication or reaction from me that she was willing to try anything. I remember sitting on my bed in my room one day in utter loneliness and darkness. She came into my room without my permission. I wanted to scream, but I had been disciplined and I had been taught to speak respectfully to my parents. So I just kept quiet, showed no response. She hugged me. I wanted to push her away from me, but I never wanted to cause anyone physical pain. So I just kept quiet, no response. She then tried to act all silly and ridiculous to make me laugh. And inside I was thinking, oh my word, does she not see how serious this situation is? But on the outside, I remained quiet, no response. When nothing seemed to work, she resorted to try to make me angry. She poked me, messed with my hair, did whatever she could think of to annoy me. Eventually, she got a reaction. Anger. I don't know what I said or did, but I know I couldn't keep it inside anymore, and I erupted briefly and then assumed my still face again. No response. But she had succeeded in getting some kind of response, and a glimmer of hope flashed across her face, so she kept at it. And I became more and more deregulated, more and more unsafe, more and more upset. And after a few minutes of this kind of torture, I made an inner vow. I told myself in no uncertain terms, these people don't know what to do with me. These people don't get me. These people will never get me. These people can't help me. In that moment, it became clear to me that the only way for this family thing to work was for me to be what my parents needed me to be. It was obviously too hard on them for me to not be okay. And I realized I would be more unsafe if they continued to treat me as a threat and invade my boundaries in an attempt to engage with my pain and distress. So I decided that if I couldn't get what I needed, I could at least give them what they need. And that way someone would be okay. Next, regulation creates connection. Correction without connection rarely lands. It rarely has a positive effect. But when a child feels safe, seen, and not alone in their overwhelm, their brain becomes more flexible, more open, more able to learn, adapt, and repair. Regulation is not the opposite of discipline. It's actually what I believe makes discipline formative instead of fracturing. Regulation opens new possibilities. There's this moment in the Gospels where a crowd is gathered and voices are loud and accusations are flying and everything is escalating. They bring a woman to Jesus demanding a response, demanding he gives some sort of a verdict. It's urgent, it's pressured, it's highly charged. And what does Jesus do? He bends down and he writes in the dust. He doesn't match their urgency. He doesn't absorb their escalation. He doesn't react on demand. He actually slows the moment down. He creates space. I see Jesus in this moment as a regulated presence in the middle of collective dysregulation. And from that grounded place, pun intended, he responds with clarity and truth. I think it was in that grounded place that he was able to sense what was the response for this moment. And he didn't simply react to the crowd. I believe he responded to the Spirit. Isaiah 11, the first couple of verses, point me in that direction. That Jesus didn't judge by what his eyes saw or his ears heard, but by the Spirit of God, the Spirit of wisdom, of understanding, of counsel, of power. So, what if regulation is not avoidance, but it is a spirit-formed refusal to be overtaken? And what if it opens us up to new possibilities, new possible responses? Perhaps not the either or responses that are so often presented to us. Next, when you regulate yourself in the presence of your kids, you are modeling a lifelong skill. Every time you pause, soften, breathe, repair, you're teaching something a lot deeper than simple behavior management. You're showing your child what it looks like to be human and overwhelmed and not be overtaken by it. What it's like to have emotions and to honor them without being controlled by them. Remember, even Jesus, in the moment of pressure and accusation, paused and wrote in the dust. This may be the time for me to name something that is true. And some of us may carry some shame around it, but I hope that we can normalize this together. Here's the truth. Many of us are dysregulated by our kids. The noise, the smells, the needs, the frequent touch, the unpredictability. And I want to say this really clearly. It's okay to be overstimulated by your family. If you haven't heard that before, will you take a moment to just take that in? It's okay to be overstimulated by your family. Being overwhelmed doesn't mean you're failing. It means you're human. You have limitations. So I don't want to just simply talk about regulation. I want to actually offer you some practices so you can find ways to regulate with your kids, with your loved ones. So right now I'm going to share with you a few of my favorite regulation exercises that can be done with kids or people of any age. And I want you to note that not all of these will work for everyone, and that's okay. This is an invitation to experiment. And even if you find one strategy that works for you and your family, that could be a game changer. So we'll start with some really simple ones and get a little bit more complex as we go. Practice number one is called the physiological sigh. It's just simply taking a pause and inhaling through your nose. And then after one long inhale, before you exhale, you take a shorter second inhale and then a slow extended exhale through your mouth, making this kind of sound. So let's try that. Breathe in through the nose and hold, and then take another shorter sip of air through the nose, and then a long sigh, exhale. And notice what shifts in your body. I can feel my muscles relax. I can feel a sense of calm that starts at my head and then works its way down. Let's try that one more time. Breathe in through your nose. Hold. Another short sip of air in through the nose. And a long exhale through the mouth. Yeah. I can feel my shoulders drop. Feel a tingling go down my legs. Just notice what shifts in your body. And notice if you feel even 5% more relaxed, more regulated, more calm. Practice number 2. This is especially good, I find, when someone's feeling anxious. It's a 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 practice. And again, I'll walk you through this. You can do this anywhere at any time. If it's appropriate, I encourage you to name your answers out loud. But if you're in a space where that's not appropriate, just hear yourself saying the words inside your head, and that will work too. Okay? So first, you're going to tune in for just a second to notice your state. Are you feeling a little bit anxious? You're feeling a lot anxious? I usually encourage people to give a number, 1 to 10. How anxious do you feel in this moment? And then we engage the practice. 5. Look around the space where you are and name out loud 5 different things you can see. And if possible, 5 different colors would be great. So I see a red flower. I see an orange pillow. I see a brown dresser. I see a blue light. And I see a silver water bottle. 4. 4 things that you can touch. And as you touch them, again, name them out loud or name them silently in your head. I can feel the soft texture of my shirt. I can feel the rough edges of a rock. I can feel the smooth metal of my water bottle. And I can feel the ring spinning around my finger. Number 3, 3 things that you can hear in your environment. You can hear the fan of the computer. You can hear someone walking down the hall. And I can hear the birds singing outside my window. 2 things that you can smell. You might have to move your nose closer. I'm hyposensitive in smell, so it takes me a little bit to actually have smells register, but you might be hypersensitive and you might be able to stay right where you are and smell plenty of things. 2 things that you can smell. Just name those out loud. I can smell the detergent in my shirt, and I can smell the coffee in my mug. And then lastly, number 1, 1 thing that you can taste. It might be as simple as the air around you or something that you've eaten or drunk recently that still has the flavor lingering in your mouth. I can taste my morning coffee. And then at the end of this exercise, tune back in to your level of arousal, your level of anxiety. Has it shifted? Has it gone down 1 or 2 notches, or perhaps more? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Just to recap, 5 things that you can see, 4 things that you can touch, 3 things that you can hear, 2 things that you can smell, 1 thing that you can taste. And you can do this with the people around you. Have them name those things out loud. Next, you might try just some simple scripts in the moment with your child. Having some words pre-prepared ahead of time can actually be really helpful. You could just say, I'm feeling overwhelmed. I'm going to take a breath. Or, we're both having a hard time right now. Let's slow this down. Or, I'm here. You're not alone. I wonder what scripts you found that can be helpful with your kids or with your loved ones or with yourself. What is it helpful for you to hear in those moments? Send me an email with some of your thoughts. I always like to gather new ideas from our community. I'm still learning in this process, and I would like to have more scripts available to me when the moment calls for it. Practice number 4. This is a really good one if someone's feeling angry or a lot of like pent up energy. It's simply what I call the wall push. You find a wall, put both hands on it, you gather all of that anger or all that pent up energy inside you, and you push against the wall with all your might for about 15, 20 seconds. Push, 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 and then release. And then you can try it again. Push against the wall and release. And notice what it feels like and how regulating it can be to get some of that energy out. Another way of getting energy out, and this is a fun one, you could have a STEM dance party where someone chooses a song, or maybe each person in the family chooses a song. And you do this for a number of minutes, right? Where you play a song and then everyone just moves their body. Could be dancing, could be stimming, just a way of regulating the body and expressing some of the energy that we often carry with us. Here's another practice. Create a low stimulation space. Sometimes regulation looks like stepping into a quieter room or altering the space somehow to make it more sensory soothing and less overstimulating, a place where the nervous system can settle. So you might encourage your family's creativity here in a moment where you're feeling personally overstimulated, or maybe you sense that others are also overstimulated. Pause. What can we do right now to lower sensory stimulation? And then let people come up with ideas. Perhaps you dim the lights. Maybe you turn off or turn down any excess sounds. In our family, I realized one day during our meal that the oven fan was on and it was just grating on me. And when I turned it off, everyone around the table said, oh, they could feel their body just settle. You might use noise canceling AirPods or headphones. And parents, you might do this when you're overstimulated, but you want to stay or you need to stay in the same space as your child. You might just say, Mom's going to put in her noise canceling headphones. I need a little more quiet to help my body settle. And you could let your kids know, come tap me on the shoulder if you need me. I'm here. I just have to cut out some of the noise to help my body settle. I know some parents feel like that's rude, but I think it can actually model positive things for our kids so that they can learn what to do when they're overstimulated. You might choose to find weighted blankets to create a low stimulation space where everyone just kind of settles under a weighted blanket, or you might unclutter the space. Some people are overstimulated by visual clutter, or you might move somewhere without clutter, or even stare out a window or stare at a wall where there's no clutter. You might diffuse oil or burn a candle with a scent in order to help offer sensory soothing. Now, good luck if you're in a neurodivergent family. Good luck finding one scent that soothes everyone. We have yet to find that in our house. So everyone has their own scents in their own spaces, but this could be helpful. So this practice is just about creating a low stimulation or a sensory soothing space. And then lastly, if you have access to words or others have access to words, you could practice a simple check-in. My favorite one is just simply to fill in the blank. My body is what? My heart is what? My mind is what? You can do this when you gather around a dinner table, for example, or when you get into the vehicle for a long trip. Just do a quick check-in. Let's do a round of everyone filling in the blank. My body is, and then see what people say. Give them a chance to express it. Helps everybody kind of know where each other's at. The truth is that kids don't learn regulation through instruction. They learn it through experience. Many times they borrow your nervous system's calm before they can build their own. And your presence can become a place where they can rest until they find their footing again. So as we close, I just want to offer a few simple statements. You will get dysregulated. You will miss opportunities for connection. You will wish you had responded differently. What matters is returning, repairing, beginning again. And though it might seem counterintuitive, many times one of the best things that we can offer our kids is our own regulated nervous system, a sense that someone can be okay in this moment. And I can rest. And I can connect with that someone. And I can return to safety and to calm with their help. Many neurodivergent folk, like myself, are just looking for someone to help the world feel a little less overwhelming. And parents, we have that opportunity. And even as we're learning how to do that for ourselves, we can do that with our children and model that for them so that they can learn how to do this for themselves. Thanks for listening to this episode of Neurodivergent Faith. If you like what you heard, consider subscribing, leaving a review, or sharing this with someone who might need to hear it too. And as you continue to wrestle with faith and identity, remember, your unique brain is a part of God's creative genius. Whether it's the way you process scripture, engage with prayer, or connect with others, you are a reflection of the vast creativity of our Creator. May you trust that God knows you, delights in you, and is working in you exactly as you are. And may you know that you are not walking this journey alone. See you next time.